Buongiorno and welcome to the My Way of Thinking podcast, or more what for short, hosted by me, Lee Greeno, here live from the Man Cave every week. Hope you're doing well. This is a very special podcast, but more on that in a second. Now, the podcast is streamed on all the usual platforms, and if you do listen via Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star rating on there. The video, the chat is also on YouTube. If you put My Way of Thinking podcast in any of the social media platforms, we pop up. Also, take a look at previous podcasts. A couple of weeks ago, I did Mental Health Week on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday with specialists offering advice to everybody. It was just a cracking trio of episodes, so make sure you listen to that. And also the ones previous, just some brilliant insights. And more coming up. Now, My Way of Thinking is all about us, amazing human beings that all have a story to tell. And those stories can vary massively. But with the guests I'll be interviewing, you'll always be able to take a little bit of advice or insight into how extraordinary we can all be. Remember, 4 rules: 1, no bullshitting; 2, no judging; 3, no negativity; and 4, have fun. Now, today I'm talking to Marco Werba. Marco's a good friend of mine. We connected somehow through my indie debut film, A Kidnap, and he said, I'll do the music for you. After a while, we just worked together. Now, last year when COVID hit, I was supposed to go to Italy and record all the music in the studio. Couldn't do that, so we had to do it remotely. But it was just a fantastic experience. And the film, so the big question is the film, of course, A Kidnap, which I get asked about quite often. I don't blame people. Last year was a bit of a dampener on all of us, especially for the film, because we couldn't premiere it or anything. But now it is being distributed, which is great news. Touch wood. And so that's really good news. And then the other positive thing is we can get it out and we can premiere it and we can put it in festivals. I didn't want to put it out and do a premiere online. I've always wanted people to come to the cinema to watch it. And I wanted to raise a bit of money for charity as well at the same time and have a big party, if I'm honest. Now, that will be happening hopefully in July or August this year. And you're all invited. There'll be loads of information on social media, don't worry. And that'll be a massive premiere, and we're going to raise money for charity as well, and that'll be super, so everyone can see it. And if you don't get to come, then it is going to be available online shortly. But working with distributors, it's just knowing when will it be available in America first, the UK, who knows how these things work. But it is on its way, so please just bear with us a little bit longer. It'll be worth it. And like I say, Marco did the score for A Kidnap, and he just did a fantastic job. I can't thank him enough. We also, through Marco, we ended up getting a deal with a music publisher who's going to do a CD of the music as well for the film, which is great news. It just sounds brilliant. There's a couple of tracks. One track, actual music track from a group called Lilybox, which was offered for the film, which is brilliant. And of course, we've got Rough and Lamb, very own Midlands-based Rough and Lamb group. The 2 guys did a song exclusively for the credits for the film, which is just fantastic. I can't wait for you to hear that. So all good stuff, all going in the right direction. But I thought it'd be quite good to put the trailer on for the film, because you can hear sort of the music that Marco put on there. And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll actually be able to watch the trailer. So have a quick look at the trailer, and then we'll talk after that.
In the next 2 hours, you get the money. Any funny business. Any. And they're dead.
What's in the next room? Look, who's there?
Okay, so there's the trailer for A Kidnap. Like I say, if you are interested, if you just put www.akidnap.co.uk, the film will come up, all the information, not the actual film, the trailer and all the information will come up on there, and just follow us on social media. And remember, like I said before, there will be a CD, an actual CD, which will be a download, no doubt, because none of the shops are open at the minute, which is a shame. But it would be lovely, wouldn't it, to just go in and get because the soundtrack, trust me, like I say, we've got those 2 tracks, one from Lilybox and Rough and Lamb, which sound brilliant, and also all the musical score as well. So definitely worth pretty crazy on a CD, I hear you say. So lots going on. Make sure you keep listening in and following on social media, and I will update as soon as possible. Okay, so now let's talk about the Marco interview. Finally, this is me talking to Marco. I love talking to Marco about his journey because it's fascinating where he came from, how he ended up as a composer, what he's been through, working with orchestras and networking in Italy and working with some of the biggest names out there. Lovely guy to speak to, and I'm sure you'll find this journey fascinating. So this is me speaking to Marco. So welcome to My Way of Thinking, Mr. Marco Werba.
Hi, nice to meet you.
All the way in Rome, sunny Rome.
Yeah, well, right now, today is not really sunny, but usually it is sunny.
Yeah, it's here in England, it's awful. It's just raining and miserable.
I remember, I like it.
Yeah, you wouldn't like it if you were living here. Right, so Marco, we've got lots to talk about today. I've known you for a while now, brilliant composer, and we're going to talk about that. But whenever I first start a chat, I always like to talk about some kind of fact. And obviously you're in Rome, so I thought it'd be interesting to talk about a couple of facts in Rome and actually see if you agree with the fact. So these are all about Rome. Now, obviously, I had a chance to come over there and COVID struck, and I couldn't, which I was gutted about because I've never been, and it does look stunning over there. But there's some interesting facts which I was reading about yesterday. Now, apparently, cats are free to roam in Rome. There is a law in Rome that permits cats to live where they were born without disturbance. While visiting Rome, you'll be able to see hundreds of cats resting in the ruins of the Forum and walking on the walls of the Colosseum. Is that true?
Oh, yeah. I saw many cats. Yeah, that's true.
Do they annoy you?
Maybe not. I don't know if only on the ruins or even in other places. For example, there is a lady that I know, a friend of mine, also a man actually, a DP, doctor, lives in Rome, who has 4, 5, 6 cats in his house.
Yeah.
So maybe some Italians love cats. I don't know.
What are you? Are you a cat man or a dog person?
I didn't. I never had a cat because I'm afraid of the nails of the cat. So I had a dog many years ago.
Yeah.
And now, unfortunately, I don't have any dogs or other animals because my fiancée, we're not married, so I don't know how to call it.
Yeah, fiancé, yeah.
My fiancée doesn't want to have animals in the house, otherwise she needs to clean all the time. But my son would like to have a dog.
Yeah.
But it's complicated here.
Yeah, they're hard work. Okay, now this is one that interests me. The Romans' eyes were bigger than their stomachs. So we all know how amazing Italian food is, but in ancient Rome, it was common for citizens to vomit between their meals so they could continue to eat more. Now, I believe this because when I've seen in films and things like that, the Romans, the food would just be endless and they're just constantly eating. Is that true?
Well, not always. I have been invited to Russia a few years ago.
Yeah.
And there was a party, and I was invited with my ex-wife.
Yeah.
And they were eating all the time. The dinner never ended, and they were drinking vodka all the time.
Oh!
They were offering me vodka all the time, and at a certain point, I said no, thanks. And then they started dancing, and after dancing a lot, they started again to eat. So I mean, it's not
God,
in Italy.
that's
Not
mad, isn't
only,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, these countries that just eat and eat and eat. Okay, now this is an interesting one. The coins in the Trevi fountain. Apparently, 3,000 euros are collected from the bottom of the fountain, Trevi fountain, every night. All the money's donated to the Catholic charity Caritas, who use the money to help needy families in Rome. I bet is that correct? Would you say that's correct?
I really don't know, but it's good to know that the money put in the fountain will be used by the church.
Yeah, yeah. Is it how's Rome because of COVID? Obviously, I guess tourism is
Uh,
non-existent. I bet it's really feeling it, isn't it?
well, right now there are a few tourists because during the summer the situation was quite good here.
Mm.
It was better. Now again we have some difficulties, but I guess that from now to Christmas or January, the situation will start to be again under control. It's a pity that when we recorded the music of your film,
Yeah.
we're not here because were afraid of COVID, of course.
Yeah, well, it wasn't so much afraid of coming; it was more about getting back on the plane.
Ah,
And
yeah.
it was probably a good call because I recall not long afterwards they stopped flights to and fro from Italy. So that was always that apprehension of just going and getting trapped in Italy, which did happen to quite a few
No,
people around Europe. A lot of people got
that's
trapped.
not. You're right. But if we succeed to make a premiere of your film in Italy, in Rome, that will be wonderful.
Yeah,
I
we
can,
will.
I can try. I don't know if I'll succeed. I'll try.
We
Then
will.
it will be important that you come here to the
Yes,
premiere.
definitely. All we've got to do with this year is just take it as a bit of time off, uh, and
But
we'll
the
start again.
situation will be better between January, February, and March, I think.
Yeah, hopefully, because now they're saying we've got a vaccine, aren't they? So,
Yeah,
which would
yeah.
be great. Now, here's one that interests me. Okay, the life of a gladiator. Now, contrary to popular belief, Roman gladiators rarely fought to the death. Instead, they were considered celebrities. However, the fame did not bring ease into their lives. Some gladiators did die in combat, and many were slaves. They did have harsh conditions, which inspired rebellions, such as the famous rebellion led by Spartacus. Do you learn a lot about history when you're growing up in Italy? I guess you do, about the Colosseums and gladiators.
Yes, and a film, even if it's an American movie like The Gladiator by Ridley Scott,
Yeah.
shows how much people died during the battles in the Colosseum.
Yeah.
Only the strongest people who survived it, and they were slaves. Most of them were slaves. Even the main protagonist of the Gladiator
Yeah,
was,
very, very brutal, wasn't it?
but a very good movie. And Russell Crowe is wonderful in the part.
Yeah, I love
Especially,
Russell Crowe.
yeah,
Love Russell. Okay, and then the final one. Now, this one did interest me. The first emperor, Trajan, built the first ever shopping mall. It contained multiple levels and over 150 outlets that sold everything ranging from food to clothes. So it's your fault that I have to go walking around a shopping mall with my wife looking at crap.
yeah, yeah.
Did you
Well,
know that? Did you know it was invented in Rome?
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Apparently, first Roman Emperor Trajan,
Yeah, wow.
whoever that is. Anyway, right. So, Marco Werba, brilliant composer.
Thank you.
Now, obviously, have you lived in Rome all your life, Marco?
Oh, it's a strange. I had a strange life until now. I was born in Madrid, in Spain,
Oh, right. Okay.
because my father, who was an American reporter, he was American,
Yeah.
was the reporter of the Variety magazine
Oh,
from
right.
Rome,
Okay.
from Italy.
Yeah.
And my mother, who's still alive, fortunately, who is French, they were living in Spain at that time because he was the reporter from Madrid, my father.
Oh, right. Okay.
But at that time, there was still the dictatorship of I can't remember the name right now. The Spanish dictator. I mean,
One of
during,
them.
during second, I can't right now. I can't remember the name.
Okay.
There was a dictator in Spain, not connected with Hitler and Mussolini, and so my father, of course, was not happy, and he asked to move to Rome, to Italy.
Yeah.
This is why, with my two sisters, we went to live in Rome. Otherwise, maybe I was still living in Spain.
Yeah. Right. Okay. How old were you then?
At 3 years old when
Oh,
I
right.
came.
Okay. Yeah.
And so first language was Spanish, then Italian, French, because my mother is French, and English.
Wow. It's a bit of everything then.
But English is very important. So I have all the time conversations in English with producers online. There are Italian producers, even the producer I would like to introduce to you, who are not able to make a conversation in English, and they ask me to make the translation or to make the conversation with him, to make the translation.
Yeah.
So it's very important to speak English.
Yeah. It is.
In
Yeah.
many languages all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's it. I suppose if you're in the film industry in Italy and you can only speak Italian, then it limits you to,
Absolutely.
you know, whereas really in this business, you want to be able to, you know, especially as a composer, you can live in Italy, but you want to use your music in America, England, wherever, you need to be able to speak English.
You're totally right. When I was at the American film market, I had the chance to meet a few producers, and there were no translators. So if I would not have been able to speak English, I would not have the opportunity to talk to them.
Yeah, 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 true. Yeah. So growing up in Italy, then, so your dad was a reporter.
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay. So what I would have thought maybe you would have got into reporting. Was that anything you ever thought about, or?
That's a good question. I did some interviews to American and British also composers, film music composer, for a magazine called Soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
And another one who doesn't exist anymore, called Cinema Score.
Right.
And that was the opportunity to meet some of them and to learn from them how they began writing music for films, what was their approach, and that was the only opportunities I had to write articles. I mean, and I wrote a book also about film music in Italian.
Yeah. Wow.
But then I didn't write other articles. That were the only opportunity I had. Yeah.
So going to school, you went to school in Rome then. Did you go to university or college? How does it work there?
No, so I had, at the beginning, I made a French school in Rome. Then I made the regular school, and I graduate at the film school here in Rome.
Yeah.
As a sound engineer, actually.
Yeah.
I graduated. It's a school where you learn everything: Italian, history, mathematics, maths. I don't know, history, and you study also the basic of film industry.
Yeah.
Script writing, shooting, sound. In this particular area that I choose, you work. You learn how the sound engineer works in a film, how a sound engineer records the music and mix the music. And so I started learning something about the sound in school. Yeah. And then I had a degree in composition and choral conducting in a conservatoire in Italy.
Right, music. Okay. Yeah, yeah. So where did this music thing start off? Was it when you were at school? Did you learn an instrument at school?
Well, that's a very strange thing. When I was in school, I just learned the recorder, no?
The recorder, yeah.
I was not really interested in music. That's a crazy thing.
Yeah.
I was more interested in films.
Oh, right, okay.
And when I was 14, 15, 16 years old, I made a few Super 8 short movies as a director, amateurish movies, of course. And that was the beginning of my interest in films, in cinema. Then I went to see with my father a science fiction movie called Logan's Run by
Logan's Run, yeah. Classic
Michael.
film, yeah.
Wow, yeah. And I loved so much the movie that I went back to see the film one more time. And the second time, as a, like a revelation, I realized that there was a beautiful music that I didn't notice the first time I saw the film.
Ah, right, okay, yeah.
There are many people that go to see a film, they are not aware that there is music in that moment. They receive the music as emotion from the general, from the movie. They don't understand that it's the music that is giving emotion to them.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was a revelation to me that the music by Jerry Goldsmith that I had the pleasure of meeting.
Yeah, wow.
Was so effective with the film. And then I bought the LP, the first record I bought, and I started to think that maybe this was the job I wanted to do, to write music for films.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Sometimes it's just that spark of inspiration, and we don't know where it comes from. But for you, it was just walking into that cinema and listening to music. Now, other people might have walked into the cinema and liked the way that it looked and the way it was filmed. You know what I mean? So everybody's different, but for some reason, you had that inside you, that inspiration and that spark. So when you come away from there, did you start thinking, right, what can I do to be able to do that?
Well, of course, the first thing was to study music. And then what I did in 1987, a long time ago, 30 years ago,
yeah,
we recorded a composition for strings called Atomic the Survivors, a sort of a dramatic adagio. And I sent this composition to 3 directors that were preparing a film at that time, without knowing them. I mean, just sending by email, by mail, by airmail. And one of the 3 directors was a woman called Cristina Comencini, who actually was the daughter of a very well-known Italian director called Luigi Comencini.
All right.
And she was preparing her first movie. And she called me saying that she liked the music I sent her, and that she thought that in her film she would probably use classical music, but there was space for at least one original music theme. And that was my chance, because if the intention was to hire a composer to write all the music of the film, she would never take a young boy of 25 years old boy who had no experience in film scoring to write the music of her movie. And finally, at the end, there was the opposite. The situation changed completely. There were 40 minutes of original music and only 2 classical music.
Wow, yeah.
That was my chance, you know.
Yeah. So when you were learning music, then were you self-taught? How did you learn an instrument first, or did you start learning?
Yeah, that's a good question. I started by studying piano, because every composer should learn to play piano. That's the beginning, let's say. Then I had private lessons with a few teachers, composers, and I went to New York to the Mannes College of Music in the summer, and I had a few master classes in composition, orchestration, and music for films. There was also a class in music for film. Then at the end, finally, after a few years, I decided to subscribe to go to the conservatory, to the music school in Rome, to take a degree, a regular degree. Otherwise, I didn't have any degrees. Composition. And so I studied there, and I finally had this this degree in composition and conducting for choir, because I sang for many years in the Vatican choir.
Yeah.
So I thought that it was interesting to have a degree that some way was closing my experience also as a singer in the choir.
Yeah.
So also as a conductor, of choir conductor, even if I didn't have any chances, almost never, to conduct a choir, it was good to have a degree, that was closing this experience both as a singer and as a conductor of choir and as a composer of choir and orchestra.
Yeah. Well, the more experiences
Exactly.
you've got. Yeah. So you were a singer in the Vatican. So what was that? How was that? Were you religious? Was your family religious, or how did that work?
No, it was by coincidence. I wanted to make experience in a choir, to sing in a choir, because it's a good experience, to sing in a choir.
Yeah.
And I went into this Philharmonic Roman choir. The conductor, who is Spanish, actually,
All right. Okay.
is a Spanish priest called Pablo Colino, was also the conductor of the Vatican choir.
Yeah.
And he said at a certain point, Marco, you have a good voice. Why don't you come to sing also in the Vatican choir?
Yeah.
It's challenging, because every Sunday you need to come in the morning for the Mass, in the afternoon for the Vespers. Every Sunday you need to come to the Vatican. I will pay you. I give you a fee every time you come, not a big fee, but a regular fee. And they say, okay. And so for many years, every Sunday, I was going to sing in the Vatican, even in the summer.
Yeah.
We had this red dress, very heavy. In the summer, it was, in August, it was terrible. It's wetter.
Yeah.
I went there, and actually, at certain point, he said that I should be the first of the second tenors. The choir was made only by men.
Yeah.
Because in the origin, the women were not singing in the church.
Yeah.
So we were divided in first tenors, second tenors, baritones, basses. And he decided I should be the first of the second tenors.
Yeah.
That means I was in front of him.
Yeah.
And near the first of the first tenors, who was an opera singer, very good singer.
Wow.
And so I had the responsibility, to make the proper job. Otherwise I would receive a slam or something. And sometimes I was even singing in the microphone in front of all the audience. A short 5 or 6 of us were selected to sing in front of the microphone a short musical phrase from the Bible.
Yeah.
And with the organ, church organ, was like a big church organ. I was in the Vatican. And so I was always afraid, because I was alone, to sing this solo part,
Wow, yeah.
Something was happening with with the throat. It was a disaster.
Yeah. That's a high level, isn't it? That is. You did really well.
Yeah.
That is a high level of singing to get that far. What did you ever meet the Pope?
Yes. I didn't shake his hand, but actually a composition I wrote, a short composition, was performed during a celebration, a Eucharistic celebration with the previous Pope.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
John Paul II.
And what was it like singing in the Vatican? I suppose you got used to it after a while, but it must be an amazing building.
Yeah, fortunately we had microphones. Otherwise, the voices would have never been heard. Because the Vatican is so big. Where they celebrate the Mass or the Vespers, then without microphones,
Yeah,
it's impossible to hear all the our voices. And we were experts, specialized in Gregorian music, of course.
Yeah.
Sometimes in polyphonic religious music.
Yeah.
Usually during the Sunday, in the mass in the morning, we had also sometimes guest choirs that were coming to sing during the mass with us. I mean, we were singing the Gregorian chant, and they were singing a few polyphonic religious music. And sometimes we had American choirs. Usually they were not very good, actually, because most were amateurish choirs, no? Yeah.
Right, okay.
I remember once we had a chamber choir coming from Cuba, and we were amazed, but the quality of the singers was excellent. Very good choir from Cuba.
Yeah.
And sometimes from Spain, and that's it.
Yeah. So now so you're doing that at the Vatican, but are you religious at all, Marco, or is that something you've never been?
That's a difficult question. I am religious, but I'm not. I have my thoughts. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah.
If I mean I'm not 100% convinced.
Yeah. Because I suppose living there, you're surrounded by religion and belief.
Yes.
So I suppose when you were younger, I suppose you sort of felt, oh, really, I should be feeling this, but I'm not. Is that how it was growing up, or?
Well, not all the people living here in Italy are religious. So, for example, my son and my daughter they are going to school right now, and they have the opportunity to not attend to the religious classes if they want.
Oh, right, okay.
They have the possibility.
Yeah.
So they are not. It's not an obligation, let's say, unless you are doing a religious school.
Yeah.
Paid by the.
I mean, people have asked me this in the past, and I've always said I'm not religious, but I have faith. So, I don't know, I don't believe in one person or something like that. But I suppose there are times where you need a little bit of faith, especially when you're going through, stress or problems. It's good to have that sort of faith instilled in you, isn't it?
Yeah, I think yes, it is useful. Are you religious?
No. I just have. I don't believe in one person. Do I believe in God? Yeah. But saying that, I think my religious beliefs have sort of gone up and down through the years. There's been times where I've just thought there's nothing, and been an atheist and then an agnostic, and so it's sort of. But I think deep down, I've always had faith, that things will work out and that there's got to be something more. But whether that's written in the Bible and all that, I don't.
For example, an interesting religion is the Buddhism.
Yeah.
Because there are many interesting indication for the peace, for our interior peace in the Buddha, in the letters written by a few
monks and people like
monks from Japan and India.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting religion, and they don't believe in a God. In Jesus, in Jesus Christ. They believe that there is something after the life, and that your soul could be reborn in another living person. Living in another person or in an animal. So it's very interesting, Buddhism.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think the problem with religion is when it can cause a lot of problems, which it has done throughout the world. And someone once said to me, the end of the world will be religion and money. And you see wars and you think it's either because of religion or it's because of money. So I think you have to be careful. But what I do see, when I see people that are very religious, they seem very happy and content. And I sometimes do feel a little bit jealous. I think, you know, it must be nice to be that, you know, believe that strongly that, you know, in something else. It must be nice to feel like that.
Yeah, the main thing, as you said, that the religion should not become an obsession. If you are a fanatic, then it becomes very dangerous.
Yeah,
we see what happens with the Islamic fundamentalism. No, that they think that all the other religions and the other people who had other religions, they are unfaithful people and need to be killed. You know, I mean, that's.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Okay, so we've done your beautiful singing voice through the years. So now you've sent that, you've done that composition for your first film. So what happened after that then? How did you get involved in more bigger projects?
That's a good question. You know, after that film, even if I won an award, my first award, the occasions, the opportunities were not so many as I thought. I had to fight all the time looking to find other film scores assignments by myself, since I didn't have any political contacts or any help. It was not easy, you know. Especially in Italy, if you don't have strong political connections and you are by your own, it's very, very difficult to work in the film industry, and in particular for television, for TV series. That's the main problem. So slowly I continued to contact people, contact productions, directors, and finally I met a few directors that wanted to work with me. That's the only way. When you start, usually when a beginner starts, he starts writing music for short movies. That's the way to start, no? Short movies, and slowly you begin a relationship with that director, then one day will make a feature film instead of a short movie. Instead, I had the chance to work directly with a feature film, not with a short movie. I have done also a few short movies through the years, but just to make a favor or to make experience. But of course, I was not so interested in short movies, but mainly in feature films.
No, it's right what you're saying there, and it's similar in England and a lot of places. It's all about those connections, and it can be difficult. Where I am in England, I'm in the middle of England, and a lot of the film industry is up north or down south in London. So unless you're there all the time, it can be quite difficult. But what I would say is making those connections is a lot easier now than it's ever been. Similar to me and you, you know, we would have never met, but because we've got the internet, social media, you know, it's a good way of connecting. So I think if people are passionate enough, this day and age, there's no excuse. You know, there's ways of, like I say, making short films, reaching out. And the thing with the film industry, which I love, is everybody helps each other out. There's no other industry where people just help each other out because they believe in the project. They want to help people, you know, and I think that's the brilliant thing. But you have to connect, don't you?
Absolutely. The connection is the main thing. And public relations, you need to be good in public relations. Fortunately, I don't have problems in that. I like to talk to even to a big audience, so I don't have problems in connection. It would have been useful to have connections, political connections, but unfortunately I didn't have the chance to have this help. To know the right people, you know, from the heads of television, main
but I think our passion, you know, your passion will see you through, and if people are passionate enough, you know, and hardworking enough, you'll get there. Now, what's it now being a composer, Marco? I've seen you with an orchestra. What's that like? It must be an amazing feeling to stand in front of all these amazing you know, people on instruments, musicians, and you're guiding them. How did that feel when you did that for the first time?
That's a very good question, actually. They never asked me that question. I don't know why. It's a very good question. Well, the first time I was in front of an orchestra, I'm thinking, huh? Because when I wrote my first film score, Zoo, there was not an orchestra. There were only four musicians. So we can't say that that was my first experience. I guess that my first experience was for the historical movie Love of Freedom is the translation. Masaniello. Masaniello was a Neapolitan hero
Yeah.
in 17th century who fought against the Spanish conquerors in Naples.
Oh, right. Okay.
And that was my first experience with a big orchestra, the Bulgarian Symphony Orchestra.
Wow. Yeah.
And yeah, I was very impressed, to be in front of 40, 42, 43 musicians.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you nervous? I bet you were nervous, weren't you?
Yeah, a little bit, yes, a little bit. But the good thing, when you conduct music, film music, you have the headphones, the musicians have the headphones, and they are hearing the click, the metronome, that gives the tempo. So in that case, it's less difficult to conduct because they already have a click that gives the tempo.
Right.
You just have to give some more indications to the orchestra.
Right. Okay.
The crescendos, the dynamics, the attack to one musician, but they already have the metronome, the click.
Yeah.
And that makes you work easily, no?
Yeah.
The track is less difficult, let's say.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel, how does that feel when you hear them all play and it's perfect? Do you have to record a lot of times? Do you have to do it quite a few times? And then when it's perfect, you're like, yes, that is the one. Is that what it's like?
That's another good question. Actually, I'm a little perfectionist, and that sometimes is a problem. Because when you have an orchestra that is not very good, which can often happens, unfortunately, often happens.
Yeah,
you're never happy. You're never happy.
Yeah.
That you have that time, and you cannot use more time, otherwise you will need to pay yourself. That's not a good thing.
Yeah,
you need to accept, the situation. And if you lose too much time recording one composition, you will not have the time to rehearse the other compositions. So you need to make a compromise. That's the problem. And that's the same situation with the Italian orchestra and with the Eastern Europe orchestras. I mean, there are orchestras that are, let's say, they have a medium quality level, but they are not exceptional.
Yeah.
So we have problems of intonation. The only time I was really impressed by an orchestra, but unfortunately it was not for my film score. I was just a guest in a studio of another composer. Was in London when I went at the Air Studios that are fantastic, but because they are built inside a cathedral.
Oh, right. Okay.
An ex-church in London. There is this big studio called Air Studios. The composer was Christian Hansen, and he accepted to have me as a guest to follow the recording.
Yeah.
The orchestra was the English Session Orchestra, and I was invited to the morning session, 3 hours, and I was really impressed. In 3 hours, they recorded almost all the music of the film without any mistake. Everything was perfect.
Yeah.
There's something that it should always be like this, but unfortunately only in England, I think.
Yeah. What film was that, Marco? Do you know? Do you remember what?
Yeah, it was a science fiction British movie called Robot Overlord, I think.
Robot Overlord?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Never heard of that, I don't think. No.
Robot Overlord, and music by Christian Hansen. And it was a very strange experience because, I was inside of a studio and outside was a church. And the orchestra was inside a big room where there was still the church organ, because it was a church, of course.
Yeah.
Big church organ with the cans, no, he said. And there was a woman conducting the orchestra,
Yeah.
and the woman was waiting for a baby. She was, how's it called? She was
Pregnant.
pregnant, exactly.
Yeah.
She was pregnant. I think she was at the 5th month or so, and she was this big and conducting the orchestra, and everything was perfect. Like, it was like a dream.
Yeah. Well, I'm just looking up Robot Overlords now because it interested me because I'd never heard of it, and I watch a lot of films. But
Yeah.
Ben Kingsley was in it, Gillian Anderson was in it. You know, these are A-listers, and so the reason it was probably perfect is because the budget was probably a lot of the budget would have been a very good budget for this.
No, but the fact is that in 3 hours, in one session, they were able to record almost all the music of the film. This never happens with the Italian or Eastern Europe. In 3 hours you can record 15 minutes maximum.
Yeah, wow.
Minutes of music, and not with a performance so good, so perfect.
Yeah. The other thing is with an orchestra, Marco, if you've got 40, 50 people there, are they all complete strangers, or would they all know each other and be able, because I suppose if you get a team of 50 people and they work with each other all the time, that's a big difference to having completely different people. How does that work?
That's a very good question, Lee. Yes, it's not the same thing. Usually the orchestras that record film music, they're unfortunately not the same people all the time.
Yeah.
They take one people from an orchestra, one from the other, and then that can make problems,
Yeah.
When you have an orchestra such as the London Symphony Orchestra in London, that is a wonderful orchestra, the players are always the same.
Yeah.
They're always the same. They play all the time together.
Yeah.
The sound is perfect.
Yeah. So it was what I was thinking. Yeah. So now you've won lots of awards. You've worked with a lot of different people. Who would you say was the biggest inspiration for you?
Well, the director, the most important director with whom I worked until now is Dario Argento.
Yeah, very famous.
Because that film, actually, it was an American production film. Film was produced by Hannibal Pictures in Los Angeles, by Richard Rionda del Castro, who is a big producer. And there was Adrien Brody as the leading actor, and Dario Argento, who is the most important Italian director for thriller. So it was a big responsibility,
Yeah. For people who don't know, Dario Argento is a very famous Italian producer, director. And if people look him up, some of the Italian cinema he's done is quite astounding, isn't it?
Yeah, and well, now he's getting old now, right now. Maybe he doesn't have any more the talent that he had at the beginning, but he's still a star. He's well known also in many other countries, not only in Italy.
Yeah.
People who like that kind of films, of course.
Yeah. And so Adrien Brody was in that film. What did you get to meet him at all?
No, unfortunately, it was a very strange situation. There was another composer involved in the film who usually works with Dario Argento. His name is Claudio Simonetti. But the collaboration didn't work out because the American producers wanted to have something different.
Right.
They wanted to work with a composer who had more experience with the orchestra.
Right.
Instead, Claudio Simonetti was a very good keyboard player. He comes from a rock band, and he's more oriented in pop rock kind of music. And so they prefer to have a composer specialized in writing for orchestra.
Yeah.
And the Destiny one decided that I was chosen between the other candidates that
Ugh, yeah.
were taken into consideration by the producers and by the director to write the music of the film by
Yeah,
chance.
yeah. Good old America. But yeah, Dario Argento, one of the craziest films he ever made was Suspiria.
Yes.
That, if you want to see something completely crazy and you're into film, you know, watch that, because it's just, they made a remake of it, didn't they, a few years ago? And I watched it. I watched the original years ago, and I just thought, wow, this is just crazy. It's not for the faint-hearted, but you know, you could sit back and think, wow, that is just, he has done exactly what he wanted. He's not followed any rules. He's made the film he wanted to make, and I think that's the problem with a lot of American cinema and British cinema, is they're working to what people are telling them they have to do and how things have to be. You know what I mean? I think that's changed a lot with cinema now. Would you agree with that?
Yes. And actually, there is another Italian director who died a few years ago, who here in Italy, he's not so well known, except between, of course, the thriller and horror fans. But strangely, in America, he's well known, and his name is Lucio Fulci. And he
All right,
made,
yeah.
he made films even more violent than the films made by Dario Argento. Really violent movies.
Yeah. Now, one of my greatest, so we're talking Italian cinema here. One of my greatest would be Cinema Paradiso, one of my most favourite Italian films, with Giuseppe Tornatore, I think his name was, something like that. Great film. What's one of your favourite Italian films, Marco?
Giuseppe Tornatore is one of the biggest Italian directors. He directed also a very good movie called Novecento, no? The pianist in the boat, no?
Yeah, The Pianist, brilliant film, yeah.
Very good movie. And he has a big budget. Usually he succeeds to have big budgets to shoot his films.
Yeah.
10, 12 million euros.
Is that all?
Yeah. A little more than the budget of your film.
Yeah. So now, so going forward then, Marco, obviously we've got my own film, A Kidnap. Have you got a lot of other projects on the go at the minute, or are things pretty quiet because of COVID? How are you working at the minute?
How working in your film, you mean?
Well, no, what work have you got on at the minute? Are you busy? Is it quieter because of COVID?
No, fortunately, I worked in the summer, even in August, actually.
All right, okay.
In addition to your film, Kidnap, I worked for an Italian movie called Il Gatto e la Luna, which means The Cat and the Moon,
All right.
which is sort of drama thriller also. And also, maybe I forget something. No, right now I don't know exactly. There is a possibility to work for a Chinese movie and for an Iranian art movie, but I don't know yet if it will work out. You know, you never know in the film industry what will happen.
Yeah.
You never know. I mean, you start the connection with the director, then for some reason, maybe the collaboration will not work, or the director will decide to work with another composer, or he will not have the money, the budget that you asked, or he wanted different kind of music. Even there are so many reasons.
Yeah.
Or the producer prefers to work with another composer. It happened, for example, I went to Los Angeles 6 years ago, and there was a director who I met there called Gabriela Tagliavini. Her name sounds Italian, but she is South American, from South America, from I think Argentina, and she was in post-production with a good film called Border Run with Sharon Stone, actually. And
All right.
Yeah, and I wanted to write the music of that film, of course, And I sent her a composition without seeing anything, not even one scene of the film. And she said that the composition I sent her was good for the last scene of the film. And so she said, okay, if you come to LA, please come to meet me. I'm in post-production with the film. So I went for the American film market, and I went to meet her in the editor's house. They show me this scene of the film with my music, and it was working very well. So she was ready to work with me.
Yeah.
But what happened, the producer came in, and he asked me, where do you live?
Yeah.
I said, I live in Rome. But then how can you work with us in the film? Well, I can work from Rome, or I can back to work. No, we don't have so much money. We have only $5,000, unfortunately, because we had some problems. And with that budget, of course, it becomes complicated to pay the airplane ticket to come here. And I prefer to work with someone living in Los Angeles. And so, unfortunately, he convinced the director to work with another composer. But the woman director liked so much my composition that she asked me to make a deal with the producer to have the composition in the film as additional music.
Yeah.
So at least I have this composition in 2 scenes of the movie.
Yeah. I suppose the thing is, though, at the minute with COVID, there's one thing about it: you can work from home doing composing, and that's one of the great things about the current situation is crap, but there's certain things that we can work from home. The big thing that we can't work from home is filming on set, and that's where things have gone, a bit tits up at the minute. But hopefully that'll change by next year.
Well, you can shoot a film, but you need to have the doctor with you on the set, which is more expensive. And what the problem is, one of the actors becomes positive, you need to stop everything. That's the main problem.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what advice would you give to someone, Marco, if they were looking to becoming a composer and getting involved in the film industry? What sort of advice do you think you could give them?
Okay. I think, in my opinion, there are only 2 ways, 3 ways, let's say. One is to contact directors who are making short movies, as I said before, and propose yourself for free, because at the beginning you need to work for free. Second opportunity, you need to get in touch with well-known composers and ask them if they need an assistant. Because as an assistant, you can learn a lot from them. And then if he by chance cannot write the music of a specific film, maybe you can get the job in his place. This is what happened to Vladimir Kozma, who is a composer who lives in Paris. He was the assistant of Michel Legrand, and Michel Legrand didn't have the chance. He couldn't work on the film, a comedy called Alexandre le Bienheureux with Pierre Richard, because he was making a piano concert in Tournai, and Vladimir Kozma took his place. He wrote the score at the place of Michel Legrand, and that was his start as a composer. Because he was the assistant of a composer, and finally the occasion to write his own film score came.
The opportunity. It's looking for, the opportunity. Yeah, that's good advice. And what? Go on. Sorry.
And third thing that they need to do, the young composers, is to be very updated about all the films that are being made. Everything. And send a demo if necessary. There is not yet a composer. Send a demo, write a demo, send a demo. Even if they didn't see the film, they maybe see the plot on IMDb. They write a demo and they send a demo, and they try to get in touch with the music supervisor of one of the producers and send the email. If they don't answer, then they need to do again the same thing for the next film.
Yeah.
One of the films, finally, someone will answer and they will say, yes, I like your music, and they will start.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. No, that's good advice. And what would you say to someone that just enjoys music? What do you think is the key to becoming a good composer?
to listen to classical music, I think that's not the main thing.
Yeah,
Not only pop or rock music, but listen to classical music.
yeah.
Because there is one thing that Gabriel Yared, another composer living in France, who received an award for the English Patient, I think was the title of the movie.
Great film, yeah.
And he was saying something very, very truth and interesting. He was saying, Marco, the young people walking on the street with the headphones on the ears, they are listening all the time to pop rock music.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, they will lose their sensibility, not only with the ears, but the musical sensibility, because they listen all the time to a music that is very aggressive. All the time is forte,
Yeah.
forte.
Yeah.
They lose the sensibility to understand that the music sometimes should be piano, sometimes should be forte. The dynamics, the difference. Yeah. That's only classical music that gives you the opportunity to listen to something very quiet, and then immediately it becomes loud, and then again quiet. That's the dynamics. Yeah. And you lose that if you listen all the time to the drums kicking hard on the.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, I like a vast range of music. I love piano. I'd love to be able to play piano. I don't get time to practice, but I love listening to piano music. Every now and again, especially if you're stressed, you listen to a different type of music. Makes such a difference. Like you say, a lot of the modern day music is just pound, 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 pound. Whereas with classical and different kinds of music, you get ups and downs, and it's a lot more enjoyable. So yeah, that's a good bit of advice there, Marco, for people.
No, of course.
And then finally, I always ask people if they've got a favourite, whether it's a book or a film or a food or anything, just a favourite that springs to mind that you've enjoyed throughout your career.
You mean if I need to fight to get the job?
No, just a favourite book, a favourite film, just one of your favourites, maybe that other people can read or watch or.
It's difficult to pick up only one favorite film or book, My favorite science fiction movie is still Logan's Run.
Yes, Logan's Run.
And it didn't receive the success that the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer was expecting at that time. And that was a pity because the film was taken from a novel written by two American writers. And there was also the sequel of the novel. And if the film would have been successful, they would have probably made the sequel also of the film. Yeah. But they never did it, unfortunately.
I haven't watched that film for years, but I remember Jennifer Aguilar's in it, isn't she?
No, Jennifer Aguilar, exactly.
Yeah,
Yes.
she was a babe back then, weren't she? She was a babe,
Yeah, she was well known, no?
And Michael York, wasn't it?
What?
Michael York was the.
Michael York, yes, the main the leading actor. Yes.
No, that's a great favourite, Marco. So Logan's Run, if people watch that.
Logan's Run as a science fiction, because I like the science fiction that makes you think, about the danger of a nuclear explosion, for example.
Yeah.
Logan's Run was the story of the survivors of a nuclear explosion in the city of Washington, living in a city covered by a big, it's a plastic cover, and they didn't realize that outside there was the nature, the sun, the moon, the animals. They were not aware, They were living inside this big city, and there with no possibility to go outside.
Yeah, it's a little bit like the film. You ever seen The Truman Show?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, with Jim Carrey. That's a brilliant film as well. That's a great film.
There is another film that is close to Logan's Run. Actually, I think they copy a little bit. Logan's Run is the film. Right now I can. The Island.
The Island, yeah, with Ewan McGregor.
Yes, and the blonde actress, the well-known actresses.
Oh yeah, what's the name? Scarlett Johansson.
Exactly.
Yeah. No,
That's
good film.
very similar. That's very similar to Logan's Run.
Yeah, good film. Well, look, thanks ever so much for coming on the podcast today, Marco. It's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure, Lee.
And go on.
Sorry. And I hope that your film will succeed to have an audience, that will be able to see your interesting thriller with the good actors that you had playing the different roles.
Yeah.
And maybe, who knows, one day an American producer will see the film, will like the story, and will make a remake with well-known actors.
Yeah. And they'll use me as director and you as the composer. We'll get that written into the contract.
That you need to work again with the same composer.
Yes, definitely. I mean, yeah, no, thanks so much for the work you did on my film, and hopefully, we'll get it out there. Hopefully next year, after COVID, it set us back a bit. But the score you did was just fantastic. It just sounds amazing, and so hopefully people will get to see that. Okay, well, look after yourself. Hopefully, I'll get over to Italy soon. You take care. God bless, and look after yourself.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thanks, Lee.
So that's it. Massive thanks to Marco Werba for joining me today, and also to you for listening or watching. Make sure you follow the podcast, because coming up over the next months, there is some even more extraordinary interviews. The podcasts are streaming on the usual platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, so please leave a rating on there and subscribe. To keep up to date, follow Facebook, which is More Thinking Podcast, and it's the same on YouTube. Instagram's More What Podcast, and Twitter is My Way of Thinking, without a G on the end of 3 instead. Now, finally, if you do want to get in touch, or you think you'll be a great guest, or you know someone, or you would like me to ask someone to be a guest, then email me. It's morewhatpodcast@aol.com. Thanks so much for listening in. Like I say, keep an eye on social media for A Kidnap, which is A Kidnap Film Midlands, or A Kidnap Film on Twitter. I'll keep all the updates there. And I'm sure you enjoyed the interview as much as I did. Okay, take care. Speak soon.